Okay, I'm going to do a slightly quicker version of this. This little blurb is about President Trump. I think he's a classical psychopath. There was a psychologist named Robert Hare who came up with a list of the most salient traits of a psychopath. He listed about 20 items. I'm going to just very quickly read them off because I want to get this done in less than 15 minutes. Okay. Now, keep in mind that the main point of this is we have a psychopath in the White House, and he's got his hands on a nuclear button. And I think that's a very bad combination. Should scare the hell out of any of us. The first thing I would say is I've got a list of about 20 items. Number one, and these are characteristics of the psychopathic personality disorder. Number one is pathological liar. Trump is a constant liar. Number two is superficial charm. He does have superficial charm. He's grandiose. He is grandiose to the point of delusional thinking. He just thinks he can do everything. He's like trying to set himself up as some sort of divine figure who seems to be so rich and powerful and omnipotent he can do anything he wants. The next thing is, for a psychopath, boredom and irritability. He has got classic boredom and irritability. People are just in terror of this guy because he's just running around lashing out everywhere at everybody. And sometimes for no good reason. He's cunning. Example of being cunning would be his manipulation of his subordinates to try to get Mr. Mueller fired, and Comey fired, and all the other Justice Department people. He just gave the innuendo that this would be pleasing to him that this should happen, but he never gave a direct order. That was very cunning, because he's evaded responsibility that way. His underlings suffered with that. They had to come up with, first of all, they had to shine on all of his behavior so that they could just not do what he's ordering them to do by way of his manipulative personality, not by way of a direct order. He's callous. He's very callous with people that are afflicted or are in need. He has no concern for them whatsoever. Most notably, he separated the parents from the children coming across the border. Made terrible fun of a man who had cerebral palsy. If you can remember that, it was a disgusting mocking of the poor man. I thought it was terrible. He's parasitic. That's another part of a psychopath. They'll live off of you. This man has lived off his father till he sucked him dry. Now he's going to live off of us, try to suck us dry. Has very poor impulse control. Well, that's just obvious as it can be. Every day there's some new person he's lashing out at, calling stupid or crazy, or he's just full of negative, derogatory terms towards others. He's a very bad man that way. He has no class. He offers verbal abuse often. If people do not treat him like Kim Il-sung's people treat him in North Korea, he will find a way to attack them. I think that he is. That's why he likes Kim Il-sung, because he'd like to be able to get people to suck all over him like that. Not going to happen with me. He is promiscuous in his sex. Well, he's noted for that. He had to pay off the people for the 2 young ladies that he had for liaisons prior to his, while he's married, prior to his running for presidency. Has no remorse. That's obvious. He wouldn't care less about what happens to you after he's done with you. Once one lady characterized it as the way you throw away a napkin after you blow your nose on it. Do you give a crap about the napkin? Well, Trump will blow his nose on us, and he will not give a crap. Has no guilt. That goes along with having no remorse. People are usually remorseful when they feel guilty about something. He has no concept of that. It doesn't even register in his mind. No feeling for victims. Well, that's just a corollary of his no regard for people after he's done with them. He's shallow and inappropriate. And again, I bring that business about making fun of a person's physical affliction, like this man with cerebral palsy, who he mocked in speech and made an awful, evil person out of himself by doing that. I thought it was really low down class, way below anything I can imagine, publicly to do that. He's got no long-term goals. Now, sure, he's got goals like build a wall. He's got goals like open up the pipeline and the fracking and the do away with all the regulations that might save the environment, because he doesn't give a crap about the coming generation and what they're going to have to contend with. And what kind of a man acts like that? He will not accept responsibility. He's not a Hitler, but he's just like Hitler in the way that he would blame everything on everybody else failing. Have nothing to do with him. He's perfect. He doesn't honor contracts, and this is very important. You make agreements with people. That's how you navigate the future. He's not interested in that. He's just he tore up almost every deal he ever made with the companies, with contractors, with banks, have all been dishonored by him. And his solution is to if somebody complains about it, well, let's go to court and spend 10 or 15 years arguing it in court. That's his solution. So people just give up. I don't know why anybody in their mind would deal with this man. He has multiple short-term marriages. I think he might have been married at least 3 times. God knows how many relationships he's had. And keep in mind that he's the man that grabs the women's private parts, and they're supposed to like that. Yeah. Now I can see maybe lovers who know each other and can accept these privately among themselves, but to brag about that to another asshole in public and have it recorded was really stupid. Early delinquency behavior in childhood. Trump was a classic spoiled brat, delinquent in school. It's so bad so that his father or parents had to take him out of the school because they couldn't stand him anymore, and they put him in this military school where he could prance around and be the big guy in a uniform. Yeah, okay, really, yeah. The same guy who has bone spurs is marching around all the time, showing all the girls what a big peacock he is, and he won't even he won't allow himself to be drafted because he's got bone spurs. Yeah, I don't believe him. Last thing on the list, as I captured him, was this trait of being omnipotent, and this goes along with his recent statement that nobody disobeys my orders. Well, that's just BS, because in fact the people McGann and his subordinates protected him by not carrying out his so-called orders. You know, they knew that they were illegal orders and refused to do them. And now he just wants to throw them under the train. They're the ones that are guilty in the baloney. Trump, you're into it up to your neck. But the main point here is to be ahead of this guy when it comes time to get him out of that office, because this is a dangerous man. His ego is tied up in all this fluffery that he's got, attention and everything, and being the big man and all this shit. But his ego can't stand it to be torn down, and he's a psychopath, and he's got his hand on the nuclear bomb. This man needs to be dealt with cagey. In other words, go in there ahead of time, sneak that damn red button away from that idiot, and then go ahead and prosecute him afterwards, so he can just sit and fume. He won't be able to push a button and start a war. I'm convinced he'd do it before he let his ego get bruised. Let us take the fall for it. What a jerk. I don't know why Republicans can't see through this rotten little man. It's not even good for them. All right, that's the end of it. Let's stop it.